Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where over the weekend, in a shocking turn of events that everyone saw coming, the spine was ripped out of Shane Black's career. Yes, the 90s wonderkin screenwriter was trying for his second comeback with The Predator. It's been a while, and one flop since Iron Man 3. And when the first trailer for The Predator debuted, met with intense audience interest. Remember those simpler, happier times? Well, it seemed like Shane Black and Fox had a hit on their hands. Although, actually, come to think of it, I said in my review for The Predator that Fox had kind of checked out. No security guards to keep people off their phones during the screening. They're like, record away! This person wasn't recording. But the security guard wouldn't have known that, right? So maybe Fox, I think the publicity for this wasn't great either. Maybe the handling of the Olivia Munn situation wasn't awesome. And that might be, again, because Fox is like, yeah, we're pre-Disney right now, so whatevs. But you can really boil down to The Predator having a very bad week. All right, so just in time for its debut at the prestigious Toronto International Film Festival, which was a crazy idea, it didn't work out that well for either The Predator or Halloween, come to think of it, right? I don't think they got enough bang for their buck debuting both. Well, Halloween debuted there very early, and I don't think it really paid off for them. But this was like really pretty good timing for The Predator, except for the Me Too scandal that hit the film right before the festival, with Black and his co-stars scattering for cover. And as you can see here, The Predator was the only one willing to pose with Olivia Munn, and he didn't seem to have much choice either as he's bolted to that platform. But Munn, who'd exposed the headline, the scandal, found herself abandoned, and that created a whole new wave of bad headlines. So suddenly The Predator, like so many movies these days, was more famous for what was happening behind the scenes than on the actual screen. Then it got worse. The movie was hit with a 34% on Rotten Tomatoes. And fascinatingly, as one of you tweeted me, the Rotten Tomatoes score for the film had the bottom fall out from underneath it at the last minute, even catching the site itself off guard, and they had to rewrite their critics' consensus. And this person tweeted me and was like, I've never seen that happen before, have you? And I have not. So my guess as to how this went down is that Rotten Tomatoes, as I'm sure you've seen in the trades, recently added a ton of new smaller critics to increase the site's diversity. That's a big thing with movie critics these days, not a diverse enough group. And I think that in getting that increased diversity, Rotten Tomatoes perhaps let in a number of critics who don't have as early access to movies as the critics who were previously on the site. And therefore, there was a flood of last minute, and in this case, negative reviews. I think Rotten Tomatoes benefits from having the score come out sometimes at least a week, sometimes even more, in advance of a film's release. But if the Rotten Tomatoes scores are going to start changing at the last minute, that's going to undercut the site, which will delight many studios. Well, if it can discredit Rotten Tomatoes, if it just creates a problem that the score drops right before the movie hits theaters, that'll be a whole new headache. But anyway, it's not like audiences enjoyed Shane Black's Predator either, though, as it was hit with a C+ cinema score, just a tad lower than the B- for Black's last film, The Nice Guys. Those are not good cinema scores for his resume, right? It's like audiences don't like your work, Shane Black, especially when you direct it. And then to make matters worse, Fox had given Black a hefty amount of money to play with, and to the film's credit, the VFX are excellent. But that brought the film's budget to $88 million, a little over double the budget of 2010's Predators, which had the same exact opening weekend 8 years ago. So inflation is certainly not in Black's favor. Now, I'd be tempted to say that the multi-hyphenate Black, who has no other concrete deals signed, could always write himself another low-budget screenplay to start work on a third comeback after this financial and critical slaughter. But with the scandal, I know that, and some people have pointed out that this gentleman, Black's friend, served his time for his crime. So, what about the whole redemption angle? But it's really tough to reconcile somebody who exchanged sexually explicit emails with a 14-year-old relative. It's not good. And so I don't think that anyone in Hollywood would want to be associated with Black, at least for a little while. And Black, he's going to have to really think hard about what he can do to repair his image, if possible. All right, then, well, that is a bloody mess. Okay, so As I called the movie a mess, but its behind-the-scenes situation is as well. Then, while last weekend The Nun was in box office heaven, this weekend the movie finds itself a fallen angel, literally. Yes, the latest Conjuring installment plummeted 66%, the biggest second weekend drop yet for the franchise. Another record, The Nun, right? And an indication that word of mouth is not good. But thanks to having the biggest opening for the franchise, The Nun has still already prayed its way past the first Annabelle's entire domestic run and is closing in fast on the franchise's 2 sequels. And then, this is brilliant, okay? So overseas, The Nun is also going strong, thanks to star Demian Bashir creating a 1-2 punch in Spanish-speaking countries which tend to be very religious. This is very, very encouraging. As you might recall, the Paranormal Activity franchise tried to cash in on Spanish-speaking audiences, and it didn't work out so well. But it seems that Warner Brothers and the Conjuring franchise have made some genuine progress in another nice pocket of cash that Hollywood might be able to access. So, Demian Bashir, I was happy to see him get the work, but it's interesting to see this business reasoning behind why he did. And since the Conjuring universe has survived a bad entry before with the first Annabelle, I liked it. That basement scene made the movie for me. I'm sure that it will remain a top priority for Warner Brothers, and they're not too worried about it. They should be a tad worried, as I said last week, and they might want to speed up the Conjuring 3 just to be safe, to keep this franchise strong. Then as for the weekend's other new releases, A Simple Favor received the best score from audiences. But with such a small box office debut, the good word of mouth won't help it much here, and it looks like we've got another movie that'll have to rely on streaming. Because again, if you have a very small drop, it doesn't matter if your starting point was 16 million, right? Now, considering all the last-minute buzz on social media for this movie, it's not a good look for Kendrick Lively or Feige that A Simple Favor, with a very strong Rotten Tomatoes score as well, couldn't match the debut or even come close to the debuts of fellow female R-rated comedies Girls Trip, Bad Moms, or even Feige's Bridesmaids. Now, with streaming shows cutting very big checks these days for talent, both actresses might want to start fielding offers. And while this pivot to an erotic thriller was supposed to have revived Feige's career post-Ghostbusters, it seems he's still slimed as far as moviegoers are concerned. I think Melissa McCarthy has some of that slime as well. And I wonder if Kristen Wiig does too. I hadn't thought about that in relation to Wonder Woman. Hopefully that won't be a problem. Yee. All right, so then Jeff Robinov's Studio 8. Good old Jeff Robinov. He's making his comeback, but it's going very slowly, as White Boy Rick came in around the same as last month's Alpha, also from Studio 8 and Jeff Robinov. Now, both audiences and critics weren't too keen about this movie, but it's got friends in Tinseltown, as I was surprised, this is hilarious, all right, that one of the trades went into an epic rant about how critics unfairly made this awards contender DOA, right? And the trade compared White Boy Rick to Black Mass, right? Which I actually think is a really good comparison, but not in the way that the trade intended, right? So that Black Mass is another wasted true story whose mediocre movie also got a muted response from critics and audiences and no real awards noms. All that comparison does is show that McConaughey is no Johnny Depp at the box office, or at least not pre-scandal Depp. Depp's problems truly began in 2016, 1 year after Black Mass was released. Now, McConaughey actually has more of these piddly little movies on the horizon, and somebody should tell him that making these little movies is only good use of an Oscar winner's time if they're good. We and Bryan Cranston can start a club. We're wasting our time and ruining our careers with these like little passion projects that neither one should be passionate about. All right, so as for the rest of the top 10, another faith-based flick barely registered in its debut, while Asian August is fading away. Crazy Rich Asians and The Meg are both genuine hits, while Searching, despite a push on social media this weekend, you might have seen it at the top of Twitter, promoted, but it again will have to rely on streaming. It didn't really work out for that movie, which is a shame. It's very, very good. And with Henry Golding not doing much to move the needle for A Simple Favor, right? Whatever happened to the Asian boost that was apparently just proven in August, right? Although his agents can blame not being included in the ad campaign until the last minute for the reason that maybe he couldn't bring anybody in. That's what I'd be saying if I was his representation, even if it wasn't true. So I think that we'll have to see, and we'll be holding our breath, because I hope that it does. But we'll see if this historic moment in Hollywood is just a moment or if it does indeed take hold overall. Luckily, Mulan is coming no matter what. Finally, a shout out to Mission Impossible Fallout, which is now well into the 700s and by far and away the most successful entry in the Mission Impossible franchise. It's now also in an excellent position for Paramount to push it for some awards nominations, speaking of awards noms, at least in the technical Christopher Nolan categories. Hey, the film already copied Christopher Nolan creatively, why not continue? And honestly, I say that with love, okay? I thought Mission Impossible Fallout was a fantastic film. It's my second favorite of the year after Black Panther. To date, the year ain't over just yet, but that's where I'd rank it so far. Now, as for this coming weekend, the House with a Clock on its Walls hopes to kick off the Halloween season. It's a little early, but Goosebumps 2 took that closer date. Nerds! Also Halloween, of course. Then Life Itself, the Russo brothers acquired Assassination Nation. Let's see how much juice they have, right? If they can get that going. And also Michael Moore's latest documentary will also be opening. And that's this week's Movie Math. Thanks for going over the box office with me, and I look forward to hearing your own thoughts down below. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.